we have a new president in office who's watching over us. I think that's all important. Leadership matters. And but in Illinois, guess what? We're still going to be under the leadership of Governor Pritzker. And at the same time that he's still going to be in charge, we're going to be losing some of, I think, one of our best state reps that's been down there for the last 6 years, and that's State Representative Dan Caulkins. He currently represents the 88th State Legislative District, and he is from Decatur. He's a longtime businessman, got into politics after he had already been a successful businessman, came in with a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge about what helps, what makes a business run. And then he goes to Springfield. And yeah, we know government's not run like a business, but oh boy, in Illinois, government's up for grabs. If you're a lobbyist or you're a special interest, that's who it runs for in Illinois. And so here to discuss his 6 years of service, because he is leaving. He's very, very short. He's got maybe about a week left. He'll maybe take some votes during lame duck session, and that'll be it. But he spent 6 years in the trenches in Springfield, bringing up conservative policies, making great floor speeches, putting out op-eds and press releases, and trying to tell people what was going on down there. So he comes on my show now to just kind of have a back brief, a little bit of an after-action report, as we called it in the military, about his time there. Dan, thank you so much for spending some time tonight on a Sunday night to talk about this.
Thank you for inviting me, Jeannie. It's kind of the last hurrah, I think. I've got 2 more days left, Monday and Tuesday. I didn't make it over to Springfield today. We had 6, 8, 10 inches of snow down here.
Well, I don't even know why they had session today. It was a total waste. I mean, I actually watched it. It was a joke.
Well, what about yesterday? We were in
that was
for 12
a joke
minutes.
Too.
I mean,
yeah. You guys, you collect your $150 per diem per day, and nothing happened. It was a total waste.
Yeah. It was. It's a waste of taxpayers' money, and we're short of that, as you know, just coming up. I mean, this is going to be, somebody better start pinching some pennies, because
well, you know,
Illinois is on a trajectory here.
Yeah, well, Dan, this is what's great about having this after action review with you. You came into office the same time Governor Pritzker did. You have the same, you've got the 6 years of looking at what this guy did. We know what he did on budget, 32% increase in 6 years, over $13 billion more, tax increases, massive gas and tax increases. I mean, you went in and you probably were pretty optimistic about maybe being able to work together. I mean, I don't know, maybe you weren't as naive as I was when I went down there. I went down there thinking people are just going to listen, right? To reason. Like, don't we all have some common sense? What did you find from when you went in to how you feel about it now?
Well, I did. As all of us in our class that went in together, it was a large class of new legislators, probably one of the largest classes in several years. And we all came off the campaign trail wanting to go to Springfield and change the culture and get spending under control and get our state back on track and get our pensions, fixed, for our employees. And, didn't take, maybe a month and a half. Of course, the first 2 weeks we, adjourned, got sworn in and got our office assignments and then adjourned for 2 weeks. But it was a shock, because I'd gotten to know, several of the folks in our class, and, they were all very bright people. I thought they'd come to Springfield for the right purpose. We'd all kind of had the same trail, in our elections and our campaigns, our speeches and advertising. And, Jennifer Dawn Gershowitz was, going to do all this and that. And God,
she's a Chicago Democrat who probably promised all sorts of things like property tax relief and getting spending under control. And
she said campaign. We all did, though. I mean, all of us campaigned on that.
Yep.
And we get actually get in our committees and start talking about legislation and going, well, I've got this bill, and I think this would be good for the people of Illinois. And the committee chairman says, we'll look at it someday. I mean, and it was that for all of us in the Republican caucus. I mean, we've been totally disrespected and disregarded. The Republicans represent every state or every county in this state. We have a Republican district, touches every county in Illinois, 102 counties. Mm-hmm. And we've been completely blocked out. We've been locked out of discussions. Budget, the governor goes on TV and says, yeah, everybody's welcome to come in and participate. So you raise your hand and say, hey, I've got some experience here, and I'd like to help you try to solve some of these problems that we're facing. We'll call you. Yeah, don't call us. We'll call you. And that's, this is, and I think the freshman class, our class, was mm-hmm. shut out mm-hmm. as well. It was just Mike Madigan and Tim Mapes and Lou Lang, and it was that inner circle that had a firm control of the General Assembly, and they weren't going to let anybody, I don't think, anybody get in the way of their agenda.
Right. Well, you kind of went through the whole, Madigan stepping down, getting forced out by his caucus, then indicted, and then the ComEd stuff becomes unravel. When you think about some of the biggest issues that you tackled in the last 6 years, what would those be? And, were they resolved in the way that they should have been? Well,
we've done some terrible things over the last 6 years, and you mentioned double the gas tax, but one of the things that the General Assembly did, the Democrats in the General Assembly did, was shirk their responsibility to run the state during COVID. They completely walked away. They completely walked away from our responsibility as a legislative branch, and just let Pritzker shut the state down, shut our schools down, shut our businesses down, shut our churches down, shut our nursing homes down. And Republicans, particularly the conservative Republicans, continue to ask, where's the science? Tell us what's going on. People may not remember Dr. Ezeki, a very prominent physician who had a tremendous amount of experience, refused to answer questions. And the General Assembly, the House and the Senate, just sat on their hands. The Democrats would not budge. And look at the harm that we've done. Yep. Look at the harm.
$5 billion in unemployment fraud to begin with. That's just the beginning. Plus, school scores still not post-pandemic up to snuff when it comes to SAT and math scores. This has been just a travesty.
Right, and our small businesses suffered and still do. People, one of the unintended consequences was that companies found that they could get their workers to work from home and cut their office expenses. Look at downtown Chicago and the effect of those people not going back to work. The effect on the mass transit system, the people not going back downtown to work. The tax returns, the real estate values, all because the General Assembly allowed Governor Pritzker to lock us out.
And the Democrats,
nothing.
The Democrats basically just let him run the ship, right? There was no pushback.
None from any of them. Any of them.
Did you have
I don't care.
Sidebar conversations with them? Where any of them admit that he's gone too far? It was month after month after month after month. It was 3 years of continuous executive orders.
Yeah,
him.
I don't know how many. There were just executive order upon executive order.
48 or 49 in a row. Monthly.
Yeah. But there were a couple of Democrats. I give kind of a joke that they wouldn't get within 6 feet of us, because of COVID. No, that's not true. But and another low light, I talk about this.
Hey, Dan, hold on. Hold that low light in your head. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Dan Caulkins, state representative, just refreshing our memories of what we've been through for the last 6 years as he sat down in Springfield and had to live through the first 6 years of Governor Pritzker. We'll be right back. This is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday evening. State Rep Dan Caulkins is still on the line with me, and he was just talking, kind of doing an after-action review of his time in Springfield. He talked about COVID being one of the more concerning parts. Honestly, Democrats refused to do anything about Pritzker's tyranny. And he was just getting to the point where he was going to talk about a second sort of overarching lowlight to him during his tenure. Dan, what was that?
Well, there's a couple of them.
Well, there's probably like a dozen. Okay, I can think of a dozen, but go ahead.
Yeah, I can too.
Yeah.
One of them was when Representative Bob Morgan attacked Representative Chris Miller and actually made a referral to the legislative inspector general because Chris was in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, accompanying his wife, Congresswoman Mary Miller. And Bob Morgan accused him of being an insurrectionist and all kinds of absolutely insane things. And actually, the inspector general called Chris in for an investigation. Chris asked me to come and witness it. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Oh my gosh!
It was a witch hunt. So there was a low light. Another one was when our members joined the Democrats and voted to expel Darren Bailey because he didn't have his mask on at the Bank of Springfield Center. We were separated by 6 feet. He had tested negative for COVID. He had taken his mask off, and he said, this is insane. And so and Republicans voted to expel Darren Bailey from the Bank of Springfield Center for not having a mask on.
So were you more disappointed in the Republicans or the Democrats over the 6 years?
Pardon?
Were you more disappointed in the Republicans or the Democrats, or more shocked at, I guess, some of the outcomes?
There's a softball.
Well, I know it's probably a little bit politically tough to answer.
No, it's not.
You don't want to dish, but I mean, honestly,
no,
they haven't had a background.
I've been very disappointed.
Okay.
No, I've been very disappointed with the Republicans in the House. When you have the minority leader vote for the gun confiscation bill, Jim Durkin, I mean, he's the leader of the Republicans, and it's been declared unconstitutional, even though it's still in the court. It's still, and the governor admitted it, and Durkin voted for it. I mean, the leader of the Republicans voted for an anti-Second Amendment bill that became law that's currently in court. Got to sue the government to get your rights back.
Yeah.
We have a current leadership that I think is wanting. I'm not sure that the people that are leading the Republican caucus are really leaders. You just saw what the speaker just did, who he just hired. He just hired 2 very high-powered, radical Democrats to be his chief of staff, and I think second in command to them. I mean, they're geared up. They're geared up for a very leftist charge through the next 2 years of the General Assembly. And we have what? I mean, we just don't have anyone in our leadership willing to stand up and take them on. I mean, it's very disappointing. The one thing that it has done is, made the Illinois Freedom Caucus very relevant. Absolutely.
You guys have done a great job. You're the only opposition force down there.
Yeah, which is sad.
Well, and you get a lot of press because you actually say things that I think most Illinoisans would agree with that make sense.
Well, but they're just things that we should be talking about. School choice is another disappointment.
Big disappointment.
Yeah, we didn't get Invest in Kids renewed, which I think goes to probably one of the more eye-opening experiences that I've had, and that is the lobbyists and how they run the agenda in Springfield.
So they basically ran that. They ran that. The teacher union lobbyists are the ones who killed the Invest in Kids scholarship program, and they did it with the help of Republicans. Right,
but that's just one group. I mean, there isn't. I don't think there's anything that gets through a committee that isn't supported by the lobby factor. I've been told, and it's the same guy, Bob Morgan, I had a bill that I thought would be good for everyone in Illinois. And yeah, it made Facebook, Meta, mad, and their lawyer mad. And Bob Morgan said, well, this is a pretty good bill, but we're not going to call it until all the opposition is off. Well, how do you do something that's going to make life better for everyone when the people that you're trying to put the pressure on and the people whose behavior you want to adjust oppose it, and then the committee chairman won't call that bill because a lobbyist doesn't like it? I mean, that was a real eye opener for me, and that's the problem. And the lobbyists, I mean, you know from your own personal experience, they stand around up on the third floor for the House and down on the first floor, and I mean, it's amazing the number of lobbyists that hang around Springfield every day.
Yeah, there's probably like 10 lobbyists for every single legislator down there, easily.
Very well, it could be.
I mean, I think that there are. So
that was a real eye opener for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, because I really, naive, I guess you could call it. I really thought that we were there to try to make life better for the people of Illinois, not for special interest groups.
So how about holding government accountable? I mean, I always had a problem with the fact that they would pass these bills and say, oh, we're going to have 2,000 solar jobs in minority communities. And does anybody ever check up that there's 2,000 solar jobs that came out of the FUJA or the CEJA Act? Does anybody check on anything? How do we know our money, even when they allocate it in ways that we don't like, how do we even know that the money was used in that way? We don't. I think there's zero accountability.
There is zero, and these are all slush funds buying votes, and
yes,
and it's the same thing with the recreational cannabis. They got the Black Caucus to agree to this bill for recreational cannabis because they promised them they'd have a seat at the table. They were going to get dispensaries and jobs and all this and that. That never happened. Gambling, same thing. I mean, the social things that we've done, abortion, gambling, recreational cannabis, are absolutely devastating to minority communities, particularly here in Illinois. And yet the minority caucuses go along with it.
Well, after they get their carve out for their special part of the cut in the deal, then they go along with it.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I think it's going to be very interesting when the new administration, cuts all this Green New Deal stuff out. We can't afford it. It's not working. You're seeing in other states and other countries that are going back to coal and natural gas because they can't meet the demands. And we're promoting these high-tech centers that are going to take a huge amount of water and electricity, and we don't have it.
Yeah,
we don't have it. Not with windmills and solar panels.
Do you feel though like the Democrats? Is it willful? Is it willful on their part not to connect the dots? Are they always just really being told what to do? I think it's willful. I think that they are just being told what to do, and they don't care. They know they have to toe the line to get reelected.
I would. Yes. No, I think that, no, you're absolutely right. And I don't say this often, but these people don't, I don't know how you have to wake up every day and go to work and wait for someone to hand you a piece of paper with a list of bills and tell you how to vote.
Yep, that's what they do. Hey, Dan, we've got to leave it right there. I want to thank you so much for coming on, but I have a hard break in 10 seconds. Dan Caulkins, State Representative, 88th District. You've done a great job. Thank you so much for serving for 6 years under Pritzker. Thank you. I really appreciate you so much.